Parents of mentally disabled children, how much sacrifice does caring for your child really take? Do you ever regret the choice to raise the child? Throw away because I would never want my brother or family to know that I think this. Having a disabled brother was incredibly damaging to my mental health. In school I was bullied not because of things I did, but because of my relation to a weirdo. It was harder to make friends, and I became introverted because of it. I left high school early for college classes and withdrew into online video games as a coping mechanism. Home life was even worse. On the good days it was like having a normal brother, on the bad days he was heck. He was quick to anger and violent. Many times I was hit for winning or had things thrown at me for reasons I didn't understand. My mother felt the need to overprotect him and kind of left me to my own, thinking that since I wasn't like my brother I could handle myself. Kids still need help, and I felt neglected. Family vacations were ruined. One time he got a hold of my travel diary and didn't like what he read about himself in it, so he ripped it up. Another time he punched me in the face and split my lip for no real reason. I missed out on the rest of the travel that week because I didn't want to be around him and my parents wouldn't leave him behind. So I stayed in the hotel room, scared and alone, while he had fun. As you can see, I am still dealing with a myriad of resentment, mental, and anger issues stemming from my brother's disability. The worst part is that I can't blame anyone. It isn't his fault that he was born like that, and my parents tried their best. I still love him sometimes. Just had to get this off my chest. A large number of parents of severely disabled kids end up divorced due to the strain it puts on the relationship, as the kids' needs always end up coming first. Parents also worry about what will happen to their kid once they get older. The parents, not the kid, and are physically not able to help them as much anymore. The kid will always be around too, and does not move out to be on their own once they reach adulthood. Severely disabled kids require constant hands-on attention, which falls mostly on family members to provide, with occasional respite from outside aids. Everything just becomes logistically harder when you have a special needs child to accommodate. There are rewarding moments when you see the child is happy, but in general life will be more challenging. This doesn't deserve the downvotes you are getting. This is also the first post I could fully relate to out of all of the ones posted. Worrying about my sister's future is a constant fear. I'm luckier than 90% of the people who share this fear, but the looming death of my parents is still unnerving. People always approach these things as if all disabled children are the same. They aren't. Some mentally handicapped children can go to regular school and grow into successful and independent adults. Some are unable to move, speak or do anything really. Then there are lots in between. This will likely not be seen. I deleted my account of 4 years about a month ago for various reasons, but felt the need to respond. How much sacrifice? My entire life. My daughter has a diagnosis that have only been documented in approximately 80 children since 1995. She is severely disabled, mentally and physically. I have had to quit my career to stay at home with her. In turn, that has made my marriage miserable since my husband now has all of the control per se. He has multiple affairs, but really, where am I going? I need to be here for her. I also have 2 older boys. They do not have a normal childhood. I try as hard as I can to provide that for them, with them being involved in sports and such. My door is always open to my children's friends to make it happier for them. They still know at any given moment, though, our house can be filled with firefighters and medics. I have had to put my daughter as palliative, meaning DNR, a death warrant for my daughter, and I had to sign it. We will bury her one day, and my boys, 13 and 9, know this. They know their sister will die. We do family vacations and have pets and go to the rec center, but it is far from normal. My life is my children. Whether it be my daughter's treatment or my son's sports, I live to make them happy and balanced, and just hope like heck I am doing something right. I have gone from career woman to stay-at-home mom extraordinaire. I don't have a life at all. No what though? As far as it goes for me, I am okay with that. I love that little girl more than life itself. She has shown me the most incredible things that I would have never known about if it weren't for her. I know the most amazing people in the world, the most incredible minds. She has given me the ability to love my other 2 even more when I thought that impossible. Has it been a long and hard 7 years? Absolutely. I was never guaranteed healthy children. Her condition obviously is not able to be tested for in utero, so I wouldn't be able to make that decision. I don't think I could. She isn't in pain or suffering now, so saying I would do the same at this point isn't selfish. However, at any point in time she could start on a downward spiral and her life could be incredibly painful and unhappy and difficult, ergo making it selfish. I have sacrificed and it was an adjustment. Understatement of the year, but I love her. She's my daughter and I would die for her. I would die for any of my children. I can't imagine my life at this point any other way, so to give an honest answer I would have to say yes. I would do it again. Ask me in a year, a month, tomorrow my answer might be different. But today, she's happy, so I would do it again. Like many people say on here, it depends on the degree of disability. I have a couple family members with varying degrees of mental handicaps. My uncle, who was very likely disabled, lived with my grandmother his whole life, but is able to live his own, fully functional life. He works, drives, shops, all the things we take for granted. My stepbrother was severely handicapped. He had about the mental acuity of a 6-year-old, except he was 6'4" and a big burly guy. He was the sweetest man ever, always had a hug for people, always had a smile or nice word. He couldn't be left alone, though, because, like most 6-year-olds, he'd get into trouble. When he was a teen he went to live on a campus debilitation center, where he could be watched 24/7. He was able to work jobs on campus, maintenance, simple work, because he did have some behavioral issues when he lost his temper. My stepmom, a single mother of 2, could not take care of him alone. She, and later, my father with her, would visit him twice a week, never missing. If we went on vacation, he would often go with us, sometimes with a member of staff, the wonderful people who worked with him at the campus, to help out. Handicapped children are a lot of sacrifice. Children in general are. But, like normal children, the joy they bring is based on who they are as a person, and how the parent is as a person as well. There are people there at the campus where my stepbrother lived who were dropped off as children, and are now into their 50s and 60s, who never knew their parents. There's nothing wrong with needing help, my family did, but if that ever happens, don't just walk away and never look back. Despite all the difficulties, the sacrifice, and the worry, I know I, and anyone else in my family, would move heaven and earth to get my stepbrother back. We lost him, about 4 months ago, unexpectedly. I didn't expect to write so much about this, but it hurts still thinking about him, how much he loved the holidays, and ice cream, and animals, and his family. I only knew him in my adult life, but he changed me for the better in so many ways because he was such a great man. I don't know how my stepmom deals with the loss of her baby. Handicap does not mean there is less love, or less joy. There is more financial stress, and more emotional stress, but from what I've seen it's worth it. TLDR. Depends on level of handicap, personality of family, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The resources are out there. I'm not a parent either, but my sister has developmental disabilities, and as a result I have seen what my parents go through, and have some experiences of my own. We are also very active in programs such as Special Olympics, so I got to know a lot of other families with children who were mentally and physically disabled. From what I have seen it's a very up and down type of thing. Sometimes it's very rough and time consuming, but other times it's almost like it's not even there at all. I know parents do sacrifice a lot and work very hard at taking care of their children, and at times it seems overwhelming, but in the end it is rewarding. When it comes down to it, they are your child. You would love them and take care of them just as well as you would take care of a healthy child. The only difference is the method. I don't feel like I'm explaining this really well, but it's kind of hard to do in a general way while typing it out. Some benefits that have arisen for me personally are: 1. Patience. I have learned to have extra patience and extra tolerance for people. 2. Respect. I have learned to generally treat people with more respect, because you never know what sort of personal and hidden obstacles they may be facing. Most importantly, I know it sounds bad, but I've learned to look at people with developmental disabilities as just that, people. It's easy sometimes to shrug them off as slow or handicapped or subpar, and to consequently look at them as lesser beings. These people are some of the most kind, loving, gentle, down-to-earth people I have met. They are beings just like you and I. They just have a harder time interacting with the world around them because of the circumstances they have been given. Personally, if my sister would have died at birth, abortion was never an option and her disabilities came as a result of a traumatic birth, it would have been a sad thing. Even in retrospect, she is our daughter, sister and part of our family, despite the amount of work it sometimes requires. One day you can no longer be there for them. My former neighbor was sole parent of a 40-year-old woman with the cognitive development of a 4-year-old. She is a very loving mother who was in her mid-60s and had simply reached the end of her ability to continue caring for the daughter and keep up the home. The house was sold and arrangements made for the daughter go into a group home. This is the saddest freaking thing. I've only seen her a couple of times in the last 2 years, but even though it was the right decision, the mom is utterly consumed with guilt and regret. The daughter is technically still just a little child, and she doesn't understand why she cannot go home. On occasions when I've seen her, she holds me in a death grip hug and asks me to take her home. When I was 15, my brother was 5. My mom had some situations and was only able to be around on the weekends. Otherwise I was on my own with him. At first he was in school and the daycare would pick him up and take care of him until I could get him. When he was diagnosed, they kicked him out of school and the daycare raised their rates to deal with the problem child. I ended up missing too much school and they almost called child services on us, so we both quit going. I homeschooled my brother for 3 years until mom was able to come home for good, and then I ran. That's a long time to be a teenager raising a disabled child alone. Trapped in the house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I would spend nights crying myself to sleep, feeling like I was rotting away in there. Now I am 26 years old and not willing to have children because I am too scared of having a disabled child. My mom told my brother that I ran away because of him and now he hates me. He hasn't talked to me in over 3 years. Any advice? No advice, but I hope crap gets better. Not a parent, but my brother has muscular dystrophy. From the age of 10 he's been in a wheelchair and every day I wake up and I hope nothing more than to just see him walk out of his bed. Walking's such a little thing to most of us, but it'd make such a difference in his life, and it kills me that I don't appreciate him more. He's been through so much crap, depression, several hours of counseling, and I still get annoyed at him for the smallest of things. Just stuff like turning on his laptop charger because he can't reach it from his chair, whilst I'm in the middle of doing homework or something. Then I feel like a massive pile of crap afterwards because I know he wouldn't ask if he could do it himself. It was always difficult to see him get more attention than I did, and I was an absolute C to him before I matured a little. I'm 17 now, he's 23. Purely because I didn't like it when he got his way and I didn't. I would do absolutely anything to see him turn into the happy child he used to be. I don't necessarily want him to be healed. I understand that might not be possible, but I can't bear it when he's depressed. To answer your question, it's not a burden on me or my family caring for him. I will do anything humanly possible to help my brother, but some days it gets hard to see him suffer. On the opposite spectrum, I wish I didn't make it. I'm not suicidal, but my quality of life is severely impaired due to birth defects. My son is 9, suffered a brain injury in May of 08, just shy of his 5th birthday. He laughs, smiles, plays, communicates. There are photos if you look back at my previous posts, so we're fortunate in that his condition could certainly be worse, even though he's dependent on my wife and I for everything since he can't walk, talk, and has poor fine motor and planning ability. It's interesting for my wife and I because there's this dynamic between us. I'm always thinking about our future and his, while she focuses largely on his day-to-day therapies and schoolwork. I think it's just too hard for her to look too far ahead. I'm largely concerned with how we'll cope with his growth as he gets older. Since he was so young when he was injured, it's been nothing for me and my wife to carry him from around the house, in and out of the car, to and from restaurants, school, etc. I call this the golden age of our brain injury journey. We can still come and go pretty much as we did before the accident. We can hop on a plane and go to Disney and jump on and off the rides with little difficulty or special attention. Now that he's tipping the scales at 70 pounds and about 4 feet tall, I'm acutely aware of how much our lives are going to change going forward. Our house is now too small, His equipment keeps getting bigger. The bathtub is comically too small to bath him in. His wheelchair won't navigate through the living room. He doesn't fit in toddler diapers anymore. But the adult undergarments are too. It's these kind of issues that pop up out of the blue that throw you. You'll be thinking, we've got this under control. Therapy is going well. School is good. He's happy. And then you'll pick him up to give him a bath and feel the strain of 5 years of deadlifts in your back while simultaneously noticing that somewhere along the way he got too big for the bathtub. We don't ever second guess our decision to bring our son home when the IQ physicians were telling us 5 years ago that he would be best cared for in a skilled care facility. It's the most stressful, intense, backbreaking, literally, burden I've ever been saddled with. However, I can say undoubtedly that his happiness, the bond he shares with his little brother even without a word spoken in 5 years, and the unconditional love he shows us, it's also the most rewarding. I have a brother with Down syndrome. I can't imagine a parent's love for their child, but knowing my love for my brother, I can only imagine a parent's love is much more intense. People say, I don't know if I could handle that, all the time, about different things. I don't know if I could survive in a war-filled country. I don't know if I could battle cancer. I don't know if I could raise a child with a developmental disability. But the answer that all these people say, who have lived through the struggles, is the same answer. You could, if you had to. I remember when my parents told me that my brother would be born with Down syndrome. I must have cried for days. He wasn't even born yet and my heart was broken. When he was born, it was the most special thing I'd ever experienced. Children with Down syndrome usually have marked physical differences, but every time I looked at my brother, he looked normal. He didn't look like a child with Down syndrome. I'm sure other people saw him as different, but we never did. He is 10 now and is the loveliest, happiest child I know. He loves John Wayne movies, WWE, and bowling. He goes to school every day. He has an iPad that he is addicted to. Every day I visit him, he shows me a new web page of things he is interested in. Recently, he loves to search for flip phones. Haha, there are always challenges. It's hard sometimes to communicate because I don't always understand what he says. There's a constant battle my parents fight to make sure he gets the best services he needs. There hasn't been a huge financial burden because we use every state level resource we qualify for. He's had health insurance since the day he was born. His life is absurdly normal. Reading through this thread, there are a lot of people who have struggled. It's never easy dealing with a child who is different than the norm, but every disability is different. You learn to manage it. You love that child from the day they are born. Actually, even before that, I wouldn't trade even one day with my brother to avoid all the struggles, and I'm 100% positive that his parents would say the exact same thing. When I was pregnant with my 5-year-old, my biggest fear was having a kid with autism. I don't know why exactly, but it just shadowed me my whole pregnancy. Lo and behold, my son has autism. He is sitting next to me as I type, talking about the movie he is watching and telling me he loves me. His disability, so to speak, is not nearly as profound as some of the other posters on this thread, but it is what I was terrified of, and now I would not change him for the world. I am a parent of a special needs child. He is 5 years old and has the mind of a 2-year-old. He will most likely never progress past that and will eventually regress. He has a terminal genetic disorder called Sanfilippo syndrome. This disorder is not tested at birth and he wasn't diagnosed until he was 2 years old. He was perfectly normal at birth. We didn't realize anything was going on until he physically and mentally started to fall behind his twin brother. This is extremely hard for me to say because I can't imagine my life without him, but if I would have known before he was born that he had this disorder, I would have chosen not to have him. Let me be clear, the only reason I would make this decision is because he has had to go through heck just to have a better quality of life. Sanfilippo syndrome is horrible. The child's body and mind start to deteriorate. They suffer. I used to be so ignorant and think if I had a child with issues like that I wouldn't be able to love it the same, or I just couldn't handle it. But my little man has changed my life for the better. I am a better person because of him. He is a wonderful child. He has been through more than most people will have to go through in their whole life and he is still happy and loving. My husband and I have had to make many sacrifices, but it's worth it just to see him happy and healthy while we still have him. This thread makes me not want to have children. It would be so painful to not get to watch my kid grow up and do things. Having a major disability will certainly hinder that. I have a 6-year-old with autism, as well as 7 and 8-year-old stepsons with autism. My son is high functioning, but he still requires a lot of help. At 20 months old, we started him in early intervention classes. This meant 4 hours a week, sitting in the center with him, showing him how to clap, sing, and vocalize. There are a myriad doctor and therapist appointments to keep every week. His schedule is extremely rigid. Deviating from the schedule is akin to stepping into the 7th circle. That means that you give up a lot, right there. However, I am lucky. With medication to control some of his symptoms, cognitive behavioral therapy, and specific training, he may be able to live independently someday. My oldest stepson never will. He is mostly non-verbal, still in training pants, and may never be able to be mainstreamed into traditional schooling. He will be dependent on others for the rest of his life. So, like with anything, there are varying levels of dependency and sacrifice. I have never wished I made a different decision, not even at 3 AM, when he's been screaming for hours and trying to slam his head off the wall. Mother of 7-year-old stepson wishes differently, and has told him he is the worst decision of her life. We are locked in a custody battle with her. I also have 2 physically disabled children that require a lot of sacrifice, planning, and extra work, but I would not change my decision on either one of them either. The benefits are the same as raising any other child. They make you laugh. They make you stronger. They give you purpose. My sister isn't necessarily mentally disabled, but she has severe emotional problems and it's been a strain on the whole family. She's 22 now and has never held a job longer than a few months without getting fired. She's only lived on her own once and that meant she shared a 1-bedroom with her boyfriend and my brother until they broke up and he stopped paying her side of the rent. She lived in a home for emotionally disturbed children for 5 years when she was a child after getting expelled from literally every possible school in the county. This was extremely expensive and considering we were already on welfare my mother simply couldn't afford to support us anymore so I got emancipated when I was 15 and my brother moved in with my family 5,000 miles away. It was something she never really forgave us for putting her there and it's something we've never really forgiven her for financially crippling the entire family. Currently she's living with our mother who also has anger management problems. It's not exactly the greatest setup, but at least my mother gets therapy several times a week now. My sister will, unfortunately, be moving in with me in the very near future because she has exhausted all of her resources in California. She has gotten fired from too many jobs and burned too many friends so she's leaving the state. A lot of our family doesn't want her to stay with them so I and my brother are the only ones who will take her in. She's extremely demanding and cursed me out because I said I thought she should pay some rent. Well, that's pretty freaking sad if no one in the family is willing to put me up for free, basically saying that I'm a sad piece of crap for expecting a $100 a month. She also insists that I completely rearrange my 1-bedroom apartment to fit all her crap and let her stay here for free. In return she says she will cook me dinners and make me a hat. Sure, I'm sure that will make up for it. My brother and I know that she will probably never be completely independent. Not because she isn't smart but because she can't hold a job. She's bound to steal something, curse out her boss, have an emotional meltdown, or set something on fire eventually. We don't like to talk about it, but we're currently working on getting an RV so she'll have a place to stay where she will be out of everyone's way. I wish what I am about to post could be more informative. My mother is a compulsive liar and never tells me the truth about crap, so please bear with me. My younger brother Scotty is 18 years old and suffers from a birth defect that leaves him unable to speak other than grunts and is fed through a feeding tube. He spends every waking moment of his life since he was born trapped in a room in front of a TV because that is literally all he wants. Music, cartoons, and masturbation. I use the question mark because I'm honestly unsure of what he does in his room. I'll walk in and find him humping his pillow pretty much every time. Being only 5 years older than him I understand, and it just breaks my heart. My father and mother are both C addicts and I'm pretty sure it had a major role in what happened to my brother. My current stepfather collects $48k a year frauding Medicare as a private health aide with his crappy STNA degree he got in like 2 weeks. My brother is so neglected, it's unbelievable. His room smells like pee and crap, and despite everything I have no freaking idea why he is like this. I've honestly yet to dredge up all the times he's nearly died on the operating table due to heart defects. Dying would have been mercy for him, and even though I don't live with my family anymore, I still wonder what his life must be like trapped in a room 24/7 with the only human contact being diaper changes and feedings. If they remember, I've been struggling with calling social services for a long time now because this is just freaking wrong. He's still a person. He still smiles when he sees me and enjoys what interests him and looks so much like me that it hurts. I'm just so lost on how I feel about my brother and what to do for him. If I get him the help he needs, my sisters, brothers and mothers lose the only thing supporting them, my stepfather's medical fraud. And if I don't, I have to live with knowing my brother is nothing more than a veal cow locked in a room forced to watch the same bulls over and over and over. Frick, why did I write all this? I am a parent. I have 4 children and the youngest one has autism. It doesn't get identified till they are 1 or 1/2 years old. By then it's a bit late to abort in most states and Canada, I believe. He is now almost 5 and wonderful. One major thing is that your goals for them change. Instead of hoping they'll not do drugs and study hard, you hope they learn to use the toilet and not smear crap on the walls. He is brilliant, stubborn, clever and stubborn. He is in his own little world a lot of times and very happy there. Seems like a wonderful place and I'd like to visit sometimes. Sacrifice. When he was 2, we had a in-home sitter. I came home to find he had gotten into some medication in our bedroom while she sat on her butt watching TV. Luckily he ate none of it, but that was the last day anyone but us has watched him. We have been a single income family for 3 years now. She stays at home with him so that he gets the attention he needs and is able to make all his appointments. That affects us all. Money is tighter, getting even tighter lately. The older ones go without some things. They also do not get as much attention as they used to. They are also teens and don't really want mom and dad hanging out with them all the time. Hopefully he will be going to school full time next year and she can work part time to get us back to where we were 5 years ago before he was born. So the biggest sacrifice has been financial. Like the week before Christmas her car broke down. Took it to the shop. They fixed it and then called to saying the timing belt broke while they were test driving it. So that'll be $2,000 to fix. Now we're down to 1 car for the 6 of us to get around to all our appointments and me to work. It's going to be an interesting few months while I save up to get the car fixed. Anyway, we are lucky in that he is 100% physically. There are no prolonged hospital stays, etc. For that we are grateful. The biggest problem for us is finding help in our area. Besides speech therapy and school, there is nothing available here. He really could use more, but it is a 2-hour drive to get there, twice a week. That's not going to happen. TLDR. It's not a sacrifice. It's a privilege to have such a wonderful child. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.